the class. So this is a replacement class for the Monday evening students as well. So they have joined here as well. So it's unit number 5. You had the same unit on Monday. So we are going to go through that particular unit here today. So Monday evening students, just to let you know, the next Monday is a public holiday. The day after tomorrow, the 12th of June is a public holiday. So your session will be held on Tuesday at 5:30.
It's no news, sorry.
I repeat myself. We do have some students who are from Monday evening batch. So the next week's session on Monday evening will not be held because it's a public holiday. Rather, the session will be on Tuesday at 5:30. Is that clear? For
5:30?
Monday evening students? Monday evening students.
Yes, sir.
Weekend students will have the next session on the weekend itself. Here today in this session, we have 2 batches.
The timing is same 5:30. I can't hear.
5:30. 5:30, yes.
Sir, I already attend this unit.
If you already attended, you don't have to attend. Unit number 5, legal and ethical.
Yes.
So if you have any new students here today, anyone who is new, first time, so you're starting with your course, unit number 5. You're starting this course with unit number 5. So every week we do 1 unit. This week we're doing number 5. Next week is number 6. The following week is number 7, and so on. Once you get to unit number 4, that's when you finish your theory part of the course. This is only for the new students, very new students. Again, I repeat myself.
Sir, I completed all this unit.
Okay. Have you been called for the appointment yet or no?
No.
Have you done your infection control unit?
Yeah.
Mahima?
Yes.
The new unit, infection control, HLT INF 006.
Infection control. No, sir.
How did you miss that? Can you check it carefully? What's your email address?
Mahima Paudel.
Make it fast, Mahima.
Mahima.
You already did it. All right, no problem. What's your student ID?
I7342.
All right, I'll call you for an appointment next week.
Okay, thank you, sir.
No worries. All right, so let's get started, guys. Today we are doing unit number 5, which is legal and ethical. That's the unit for today. The code for this particular unit is CHCLEG001, work legally and ethically. That's the title of the unit. And under this particular unit, you have 3 topics: identify and respond to the legal requirements, identify and meet ethical responsibilities, and contribute to the workplace improvements. So these are the 3 topics that we have under this particular unit. So firstly, to start with, what is the purpose of this unit? Why do you have to do this unit? The purpose of this unit is to ensure that you understand the legal and ethical responsibilities when you're working in the community sector. In other words, when you're working in aged care or home and community, we do have to follow certain legal and ethical requirements. And that is the purpose why you're doing this particular unit. I hope that is clear for everyone. The purpose of the unit is to ensure that you work in a legal and an ethical manner. You may come across multiple legal requirements and ethical requirements, and we need to ensure that we follow these legal and ethical requirements at all times when you're working in aged care. Any breaches will obviously have some legal penalties as well. So it is very important for us to understand what are some of the legal requirements and how do I follow these legal requirements and ensure that I work in an ethical and legal manner. Now, to start with, what do you understand by the word legal? What is legal and what is not legal or illegal? How do you know that? So usually we do have some legislations. the legislations tell us what is that we have to do in order to work in a legal manner. Now, do I have to read the legislations? Yes, it is recommended that you read the legislations, but however, an organization, what it does is they go through the legal requirements and they design their policies and procedures according to these legal requirements. So you, as a personal care assistant, when you're working in an aged care, you refer to the organization's policies and procedures and you follow them. When you follow the policies and procedures, you are actually working in a legal manner and an ethical manner. Is that clear for everyone? Now, I repeat myself once again. The policies and procedures of an organization are designed according to the legislations. Any breaches to the policies and procedures will eventually lead to breach in a legislation. Now, when we say that if these policies are designed according to the legislations sometimes get changed. Government changes the legislations or update the legislations. Now, when the legislations are updated, obviously the policies and procedures of the organization are also updated. For example, before 1st of July 2019, we used to have 4 standards for aged care. Now, standards are also embedded into the policies and procedures. So they also refer to the standards are also part of the legal requirements. So standards are also embedded into the policies and procedures. So before the 1st of July 2019, we used to have 4 standards for aged care. Now, after the 1st of July, we have 8 standards. Now, what the organizations have done, they have reviewed their policies and procedures and ensured that they have embedded these 8 standards into the policies and procedures of the organization. Is that clear for everyone? Now, as a part of your responsibility, you might be doing some professional developments at different organizations or colleges or RTOs or somewhere else through your networking. You might be doing some professional development courses, which means every industry, wherever you're working, you need to grow and keep your knowledge up to date. In order to keep your knowledge up to date, we do our professional development courses. Now, when you're doing these professional development courses, you might come across a particular legislation being updated. And that particular legislation is actually not reflecting into the policies and procedures. Then what do you do? I repeat my question once again. So you might be doing professional development courses with different organizations in order to keep your knowledge up to date in whatever industry you're working as a care worker. You might be knowing more about care. There's a new legislation or a legislation has been updated. Now, when the legislation has been updated and it does not reflect into the policies and procedures as of now, when you started reading them, what do you do?
We can tell to the supervisor or higher authorities like there is a new legislation.
That's exactly what we're talking about, this topic number 3. So here, contribute to the workplace improvements. So if you come across a particular legislation that is not updated into your policies and procedures, then you might have to let your organization know about it so that they can review and update the policies and procedures. Now, as a personal care assistant, you're following the policies and procedures. Sometimes a particular policy or a procedure is not making full sense, or you're not able to understand it. Then you have to let your supervisors know so that they can review and update the policies and procedures. Or sometimes a particular procedure or a policy is not drafted well, or it doesn't make full sense of what it's saying. For example, for COVID-19, they have by mistake written it as apron instead of gown. You have to use an apron. So using apron is not actually the right thing to do, because for COVID-19, you need to use gown. But in your policy or procedure, it says that you have to use an apron. You have noticed this, so you have to report this to your supervisors immediately so that they can review and update these policies and procedures so that no one else follows incorrectly, or eventually it will cause harm to others. Because if you're wearing an apron, there is a chance that you might take an infection from a COVID-19 patient and pass it on to another person, or you might get it yourself. So it's not drafted well, or there is an issue with that particular policy or a procedure. Is that clear for everyone? And apart from that, you might also come across some new technologies when you are learning about different things. And if your organization doesn't know about those new technologies, or they have not implemented those new technologies, and you think that those new technologies will be able to assist your clients better, in those circumstances also, you might recommend organization to use those new technologies. Example, there's a new machine in the industry that is able to transfer clients easily, and it is also promoting independence in the clients. And you feel that there are 3 to 4 clients who might be benefited by this particular machine. Then you might have to let your organization know so that they can start using this particular machine. Is that clear for everyone? So I'm going to cover some legal and ethical responsibilities that we all have when you're working in the aged care. At any point of time, if you guys are not clear about something and you wanted to ask more questions, yes, you can. At the same time, I will also be giving some questions to you so that you can answer and understand the unit better. So when we're talking about legal and ethical responsibilities, the first and foremost thing that we all need to understand is the duty of care. Duty of care. Duty of care. Now, what is our duty of care as a personal care assistant? As a personal care assistant, my duty of care is to ensure the safety of clients at all times. I repeat myself once again. As a personal care assistant, my duty of care is to ensure that I maintain the safety of my client at all times. And also the duty of care says that you need to eliminate any foreseen harm, which means that if a client has already caused harm by some reason, we need to make sure that we do not cause any further harm. For example, a client had a fall. Okay. Now, can I lift the client? The client is on the floor. Can I just go and lift the client now?
No.
No.
Now, the reasons behind that is it could cause further harm if I lift the client straight away. So we need to call the supervisor, ask the supervisor to come and check. And then upon the permission from the supervisor, you'll use a machine. And when you're using a machine, again, legal requirement is 2 people. If you do it alone, it's illegal. So you need to make sure that you have 2 people, use yourself and another staff member when you're lifting that person using a machine. Is that clear? So these are the legal requirements. For example, if you don't call the supervisor and you lift the person and the person actually had a fracture and you didn't know about it and it caused further harm to the client, that is a breach of duty of care. Is that clear for everyone? Any questions? Now, the next thing is about dignity of risk. Now, dignity of risk, I believe that you would have studied in some other units as well. I'll just give you some examples to explain this dignity of risk, as we have some new students as well. And I will be asking questions too. Okay, so please be prepared. I might ask you for examples. Now, when it comes to dignity of risk, every person has a right to take reasonable risk in their life. However, this risk should only cause harm to that person, no one else. And this risk should not be illegal. Okay, example, a client has diabetes, wants to have a toast with a jam or a banana, which could shoot up their blood sugars. But the client wants to still do it. A client wants to have a couple of glasses of alcohol before he goes to bed. Can he have it? Yes, he has a right to take that risk. Okay. Now, however, if it's causing harm to someone else, there is no dignity in that risk. For example, someone says, I want to see this building on the fire. Is there any dignity in that?
No.
No, obviously not, because it causes harm to other people. So anything that is causing harm to other people, there is no dignity of risk in that. So obviously it's illegal stuff. Is that clear for everyone? Any questions? Now, can anyone give me an example of breach of duty of care? What is a breach of duty of care? Any example?
If we give medicine to client and we are not allowed to give medicines to client.
That is absolutely right. If you're not allowed to give the medication to the client and you have given a medication to the client, or you're giving a medication to the client, that is a breach of duty of care, because legally you should not be giving it because you don't know how to give it. Irrespective of whether you know or not, by paper you don't know, that means you don't know. Next, anyone else? Breach of duty of care.
Like if we give a sugar to a diabetic person, even he like client doesn't want, and if we give,
If the client
Okay,
doesn't
that's
want
okay,
and
I
you give
took
it, then obviously it's a breach of duty of care. That's right. Now,
Yeah.
thanks, Sakshi. Anyone else?
I think when you intentionally put the client into a risky situation, when you in fact you already know that it would cause harm to the resident. I mean,
Yes. So if you're intentionally doing something and it has actually caused harm to the client, then it is a breach of duty of care. Now, you went to one of the client. Tell me if it's what you understand out of this. You went to one of your client. You asked your client, it's time for you to have a shower. The client did not have a shower from last 2 days. And you have been encouraging this particular client continuously. On day 3, also the client has refused to have a shower. Is there a breach of duty of care here?
No, there is the reserve dignity, right? Dignity.
What is it, Anjana?
I mean, like the client can make a choice, right? Like if he wants to do.
That's exactly what I'm saying. 3rd day, he didn't have a shower. You're encouraging him. You are trying your best. You asked him for a wash, everything that you have done, but still he is refusing. Can you force him to have a shower?
No.
We could
they
check for possible reasons. If he's not well, he's having fever, we can check with the client.
Unfortunately, he is okay. He's okay with everything, but he doesn't want to have a shower. And he's not even changing his clothes.
They have to, I mean, they have respected dignity of risks.
That's not actually, well, it's causing harm to the client, yes, but it's a part of dignity of risk. But end of the day, if it happens for another 10 days, it will end up as a neglect too.
We can inform the supervisor.
You have to report to the supervisor in these circumstances. If you don't report to the supervisor and do nothing about it, then it's a breach of duty of care. For example, every 2 hours, someone is going and encouraging the person. You have reported to supervisor. You're writing the notes saying that you have approached the client multiple times and the client has continuously refused it. Then you have reported to the supervisor. Then you're not at breach. But if you have not reported and then you are just ignoring, saying that, well, I don't have to do one more shower, what's the big deal? If he's refused, he has refused. If you're leaving it like that, in those circumstances, it could still fall under breach of duty of care because it was never reported.
We have to leave the notes.
So the legal way of protecting ourselves is notes and reporting. If there is documentation, for example, on the 4th day, the daughter of that particular client she comes and says, my dad hasn't had a shower for last 4 days. I came on last Saturday and today is Wednesday. He's still wearing the same clothes. He smells. He never had a shower. What did you guys do about it? Now, the only thing that could protect us is the notes. We can open the notes, put it in. You don't have to do it again because it's beyond your scope. And working within your scope is also very important. You don't have to do this. So all you have to do is surely understand your concern. You can verbally say that we have been encouraging the dad to have a shower, but he has been continuously refusing it. We have reported it to the supervisor as well. I would request you to talk to the supervisor. Okay. And then the supervisor comes, explains everything. If need be there, he might even show the notes as an evidence. Now, everything that you'll write into the client's notes, it's legal. It protects you. That's a legal document. Is that clear for everyone?
Yes.
Now, if you have done something wrong, knowingly, if you do something wrong, obviously it's literally a crime if you're doing something knowingly, but unknowingly you have done something wrong, unknowingly. And then later on you have realized that you have done a mistake. Will you hide it or will you tell your supervisor?
Tell your supervisor.
Tell your supervisor. It should be
You
informed.
definitely have to tell your supervisor. And if it has actually, if there is a chance that it could cause harm to the client, then you will even complete an incident report, considering it as an incident. And obviously that information is passed on to the family and everyone.
I have one doubt.
Go for it.
Incident report should be completed on the day of incident.
Absolutely. But sometimes you realize
But
that,
if we forgot that
if you forgot is
the
a different
incident.
forgot is a different story. But forgot is a different story. You should not be forgetting. That's your job. Forgetting is not a
No,
reason.
like I'm just giving an example on your scenario. You are asking us like if you do something wrong and you realize after 2 or 3 days, oh, you did something wrong. So I tell my supervisor, they'll tell me to fill the incident form. That's my question. Like incident form should be completed on the day of incident. If we
Sakshi,
realize after 2-3 days,
I understand. So when you realize, that's when it became an incident.
okay. That's my doubt. I got it.
So because you don't even know how will you finish the incident report. You don't know that it's an incident. So how will you finish? No. You realize it late and that's when you consider it as an incident. So it's on that day. It's considered as an incident. Even the incident would have happened on the previous day, but when you have realized, when you have noticed that it became an incident, that's when you're reporting and completing the incident report.
Okay.
Upon realizing it as an incident.
So date should be on the same day.
No,
when
you
we
will mention
realize
the
it,
date as,
or
for
on the
example,
day of incident.
what is the day today? Saturday. Something happened on Thursday. Okay. You realized it today.
Yeah.
Which is Saturday. You will put today's date on the incident report. But you
Okay.
will say that incident would have happened on Thursday. But the date of the incident will still remain today.
Okay.
No, we are putting
Okay.
that we have to give shower to the client. He has not taken it.
That's
So
that's not an incident. Okay.
No, what I'm just trying to ask over here is putting the notes, like this is our duty to give shower to the client, but he has not taken it. He is refusing it. So one day we'll just put the note. Second day also, for example, he is not ready. On a third day, it becomes an incident, like a bad smell is coming. On that day, we will put an incident report.
But it's still
note
not considered as an
putting-
incident. It's a refusal of service. Now, incident is something that actually caused harm to the client or nearly was about to cause the harm. Now, in this situation, it's not like this is from the client. We didn't do anything wrong. This is from the client. It's not considered as it's considered as a refusal of service. Okay. So refusal of service here, for example, there's a lot more happening. For example, the client is now having some kind of rashes on his body for not having shower. Okay. Or, something like that. Then we have to fill in an incident report because that's an incident.
Mhm.
Refusal of service goes to reporting and documentation. But if it's caused harm, then it's became incident. Now that caused harm is a physical evidence. It's a vast topic, but as a personal care assistant, again, my job is to report to supervisor, and anything that happens to the client because of his refusal of service, the supervisor will complete the incident report, not me.
We need to inform each and everything to the supervisor.
Absolutely. The more you inform the supervisor, the more safer you are.
Even client didn't do a brush. That's
Okay.
even we need to inform.
Yeah, if you don't report to supervisor, what happens is later on, they might say that you didn't
Still
brush
have
the
not
client.
done it.
Right. You haven't done it.
Okay.
So I protect myself.
Got it.
How do I protect myself? Is by reporting and documenting.
Even for the little things, we need to inform
It's
each.
not a
and
little thing. Oral hygiene
everything.
is a big concern, Sakshi. I know for us it
No.
might look like it's a little thing.
I
but
know.
someone's-
Hygiene is a way. I'm not asking about hygiene. I'm just asking about the all over scenario. Whatever client is doing in his day, whatever the routine it is. So I'm just asking about it. Even the little things we need to inform.
Now, what is that
something-
little thing you are talking about?
It could be if something drop on the floor, like a glass vase or anything.
Yeah.
I
Now,
didn't have
now
any idea at
glass
this
was
time.
is
What
could
could
be a little thing. Glass was is fine. Okay, glass
Okay.
was is a different example. That's a little thing. But oral hygiene is a big concern.
I know this thing.
No,
I
I'm
know
not
this
telling
thing.
you alone, Sakshi. Please don't take it
Okay.
personal. It's also about
Okay.
other students here. Okay.
Okay.
So oral hygiene, for example, if you take an example of oral hygiene, what happens is after a couple of days, for Sakshi, for example, Sakshi has reported or whatsoever, and the next person has not reported, and it continued for about 10 days. And now the client is having issues with their gums or teeth. Now they don't go back to the personal care assistants, 10 of them. They go back to the notes. They go back to the supervisor, and then they read this. Now this became a big issue now. All right. Now things like a flower vase, which is a very good example of what she was giving, Sakshi. A flower vase has dropped and it has broken. And the family members come the next day. You don't know. The belongings may have a lot of memories too. We don't know. So we still have to report it and write it in the notes saying that, client has dropped it. Later on, staff, we don't want family members to come and say that, one of your staff member has dropped it. And we had a lot of memories on this particular flower vase. It was given by my mom to my dad. And he loved it all the time. That was the only memory he had. These kind of things come up. You understand? So anything that comes across that you may come across, anything that is broken or any minor thing, don't consider it as minor. Just report it. My job is done reporting. Keep it simple.
Yeah, just
Even if it's a small issue, because small issues can also give you a little bit of stress at work if you don't report them. Because later after 2 days, you got a call. Hey, Sakshi, or hey, Pavitra, do you know about this flower vase? The family is now complaining about it. And now you're like, oh, I forgot to report it. What happened? Oh, client has actually dropped it on Monday morning. Or how come you didn't report it? If you had notes, we would have been well protected now. You know what I mean? These kind of things. And again, you all day you're thinking like, oh my God, I should have reported. Oh my God, I should have reported. I would have been safer. No, we don't want these kind of situations. So everything that you come across, keep reporting it. Is that clear for everyone?
Yes, sir.
Now, some clients, for example, I'll give you another simple example. Now, sometimes client socks, okay? Now, there are some particular socks that have grip on the feet, okay? Grip. Okay. Some socks, they don't have the grip. Now, a client, you didn't find the socks that did not have a grip, but this client always wear the client with a grip because the socks with a grip. Now, on this day, you didn't find it and you haven't reported it. The next day, client was wearing the same socks or he was still wearing the same socks and he slipped and he had a fall. Now they might come back to you and ask, hey, what happened? How come he's wearing these socks? Now, this is minor, but now eventually after the fall, it has become a major issue. You understand, guys, what I'm talking about? So certainly everything you need to report. That's it. We don't have to think too much. We have to write enough notes every day in our handover sheets. End of the day, report everything to the supervisor. Let them do what they want. You are
Even we need to take a note for the socks as well.
everything. Socks is a big issue. It's a major issue. You know why? There is a socks that has grip. There is a socks that does not have a grip. Now you put the client to bed without the socks that has a grip. Now client tried to walk with those socks. He slipped and he fell. And he hit the furniture. He ended up in the hospital. Is that a big issue?
Yes.
Obviously, it's a very big issue. Sometimes people die too. People even die. So everything that you do, it's good to report. Reporting is the only way that could protect us. Is that clear for everyone?
yes.
And documentation. Sometimes you might even have to go and check the document to make sure that it is written in the document as well. And remind the supervisor and also have your own personal notes on what you have done on a particular day. Is that clear for everyone? Any questions? Any more questions? Now the next thing, the next thing is ethics. Ethics are based on human rights and wrongs. Ethics are based on human rights and wrongs. Sometimes you might feel something that is right, and I might feel that something that is not right. There is a confusion between what is right and what is wrong. That's ethics. Ethics are based on human rights and wrongs, whereas legality, legal things, legal requirements are written very clearly what you have to do.
Yeah.
Legal requirements. Whereas ethical responsibilities, it is a confusion between what is correct and what is wrong, because it's based on human rights and wrongs. Sometimes you might feel something is right, sometimes I might feel something is wrong.
Yeah.
So we don't know. It can be confusion. So and that confusion is called ethical dilemma. That confusion is called ethical dilemma. When there is an ethical dilemma, you go and read the policies and procedures of the organization and try to find the information about that particular issue. And if you do not find the information about that particular issue in your policies and procedures, then you'll approach your supervisor to assist you. I repeat that once again. Legal responsibilities or legal issues are very clearly written under the legislations, and we have to just follow them. Whereas the ethical responsibilities or ethics are based on human rights and wrongs, and sometimes you could be confused between what is right and what is wrong, which is called as ethical dilemma. And when you have the ethical dilemma, you refer to the policies and procedures of the organization or contact your supervisor to make sure that you're following the ethical responsibilities appropriately. Is that clear for everyone? Now, some of the examples could include a family member is giving you $100 gift voucher, $100 gift voucher to go and have dinner with your family because they're impressed with your work. Will you take it? Yes or no?
No,
Why not?
we should not take anything
Refer
from
to the
the
policy.
child,
Yeah.
according
What
to
would
our
you do?
policy and procedures.
No, we can't just take it like that. We should first inform the supervisor, and we should always refer to the gift policies of the company.
This is absolutely right. So what I would do is the first and foremost thing I'll say, hey, let me check. I don't think I can accept it, but let me check and get back to you. Right? Then I'll go and check the policy. What does the policy say? The policy says no gifts to be accepted from anyone. Or the policy might say you can have a box of chocolates or a bottle of wine on a Christmas, but nothing else. Okay? You can have a bottle of wine or a box of chocolates on a Christmas up to $10. Up to $10. This is what your policy says. Or the policy says no gifts are accepted. Now you have to just go and tell, I really appreciate that you wanted to do this for me, but unfortunately, we're not allowed to accept any gifts according to our policies. But I really appreciate your gesture. Okay? And then you can have a couple of words with them and make them feel better, and that's it. Professionally, you're refusing it in a nice manner. Now, you have a gift policy that is not really giving you full information about this, or it's not very clear, the policy. Okay? Then you have to go back to the supervisor and let the supervisor know and ask the supervisor. And even irrespective of what the policy says, a situation like this should be reported to supervisor, so that they know that someone has offered you something and you have rejected it. In future, something comes up, they know this is exactly what you have done. Is that clear? So this is also one of the legal requirements, that you have to make sure that you abide by your policies and also let your supervisors know so that they have a record of everything. Again, it's workplace. It's not our home or our own business. It's workplace. So everything must be reported. Is that clear for everyone?
So,
Now, moving to the next one is about conflict of interest. Conflict of interest. Now, when we're talking about the conflict of interest, the only interest that we should be having at workplace is providing services to our clients according to our job role responsibilities and getting paid for what you have agreed for as per your contract. Yeah, simple. Now, when we're talking about conflict of interest, no additional benefits, no trying to make money out of your work or trying to get benefit out of your work. Example, for example, say Pavitra has a bakery. She bakes bread in the morning, example, and she delivers to everyone, her clients, not aged care clients, outside, her own business clients. She delivers and she comes late to work every day. It's 7:05 or 7:10. So one of the client has asked Pavitra, saying that, why are you late every day? You're such a nice personal care assistant, so dedicated, but how come you come late every day? Now, Pavitra said that she has a permission from the organization that she'll be late up to 15 minutes every day, which she has already discussed with management because she has her own business and that she has to deliver the bread before she comes to the aged care. And she also mentioned that I have to, bake the bread in the morning and then deliver and then come back to work. Now, the client said, oh, I really like fresh bread. Can you bring me a packet of bread every day? I pay you $5 or $10 because you're my personal care assistant. I pay you $10 every day. Can Pavitra give this bread to client every day for $10 or $5 or $2?
No.
Ideally, this should also be noted down, discussed with the supervisor about this conversation, and it should be well in advance informed to the supervisor. And if it is approved, because that might not be a good food for the client, there could be a possibility. So if there is an approval, then I think you can give the bread. But again, this also needs to be reported and the necessary approval should be obtained for this.
Okay, accepted. Any other answers? Keep it this way. The answer is simply no. Because Pavitra should not be making money at work, any profits at work, because her only goal is to provide the service according to her job description. Now, if the client approaches the supervisor and requests for this approval, as Jyoti said, yes, you could have some arrangement. You could probably have some arrangements where the organization has accepted it. Then she may, but keep it simple, it's a no. Okay, not to have too many confusions. Keep it simple. It's a no because her only aim is to assist the clients, provide the service according to her job description, and not have any kind of personal profits at workplace. Now, what if, the supervisors, there are other ways how they think. When one client said, I want bread, she might go and tell another client. The other client says, I want bread from Pavitra. The other client, now you ended up having 30 clients who want bread. Now, is Pavitra selling bread or is she working as a personal care assistant?
Yeah.
Eventually things go wrong. So they have to think before they take that decision and support one client. They support one client, it will end up eventually, you think you can stop these elderly clients? No, they talk to each other. They tell. And they say that, oh, Pavitra bread is so soft and it's nice and warm in the morning. Everyone wants it now.
So we should simply say to the client that it's not in our job description to do like
No,
this.
you should see certain things, they are legal things also. They're very harsh when you say. You have to be very gentle with them. Okay. The legal stuff. Now, if you go and say, no, I can't give it. It's not my job description. Technically what's happening is your trust with the client is not built well. So what you do is, I understand, I wish I could do that for you. But unfortunately, we are not allowed to.
In a way, it's a professional way to decline it.
Always being professional is important. Okay. Because everyone understands what is legal, what is illegal. But sometimes when you say it, it might sound like you don't like it or you hate it. Are you against them? or you're trying to teach them legislations, which people take it negatively. Okay. Now, in the same way, a manager is a wife, husband is a PCA, promoted within 3 months. People are waiting for 10 years to get a promotion as a team leader, but this particular PCA, who is the husband, has been promoted within 3 months. Within 3 months. Now, there could be a conflict of interest because it's wife and husband. Wife is the manager, husband is a PCA. Is that clear for everyone? That's also one of the ways how we think about conflict of interest. That's why a lot of workplaces, they don't want wife and husband to work together. A lot of them, not all. Most of them, they say that if you're working, work in different areas. So there's no conflict of interest.
Could you say once again that the last example you described?
So the one of the example is for example, a wife is a manager, husband is a personal care assistant. And the personal care assistant has been promoted to a team leader within 3 months.
Yeah.
And there are people waiting for promotion from last 10 years. Okay. There is a conflict of interest because obviously the benefit is going to the household.
That's it.
So there is a chance of conflict of interest. And these kind of things could be raised by other staff members. They could even put in a complaint. How did this happen? How can this happen? Because everyone has a right to complain and ask for investigation if they think it's unreasonable. That's why a lot of organizations, what they do is they ask if the husband and wife are working, they ask them to work in different sections, so there is no conflict of interest.
So nepotism can be taken as a source of conflict of interest, is it?
What was that once again?
Nepotism is taken as a source of conflict of interest, isn't it?
Nepotism, its definition wise, let me see how much detailed definition it has. Nepotism.
Like if you favor to someone on the basis of your nearest or dearest.
No. Yeah, I understand that. Nepotism also includes a kind of corruption. That's why I was thinking about it. It could come under conflict of interest. It could also come under other illegal stuff. The conflict of interest, they don't really say it as illegal. That's the issue. It's more ethics. Now, what you're talking about, nepotism is a part of ethics and illegal.
Yeah.
Conflict of interest is more towards ethics, less towards legal. Okay, to give you a simple answer.
Okay.
But if you ask me a direct question, is it a part of conflict of interest? Yes, it is a part of conflict of interest. But it's not completely just conflict of interest because it is illegal too.
Okay.
Yeah. Any other questions, guys? All right. Moving to the next one is also reporting, which is mandatory reporting. Mandatory reporting. Now, when do we do mandatory reporting? There are few instances where you do mandatory reporting. When you are suspecting an abuse, we do a mandatory reporting.
Discrimination.
Discrimination does not fall under mandatory reporting.
Okay.
It falls under reporting.
Negligence. Negligence.
Negligence, again, mandatory reporting is different, guys. Let me explain, okay? Mandatory reporting is done for 3 reasons, okay? One is refusal of service is also mandatory reporting. Let me finish, guys, okay? No answers at this stage, okay? Mandatory reporting is done in 3 instances. Where there is a physical abuse, where there is a sexual abuse, where there is an unreasonable use of force. Unreasonable use of force. I repeat that once again. Mandatory reporting is done when you are suspecting or you have a confirmed case of physical abuse, sexual abuse, and unreasonable use of force.
Unreasonable use of force, sir?
Force. For example, you are tying a client to the bed. You don't want the client to to wake up in the night, so you're tying up the client to the bed or chair. This is unreasonable use of force. Is that clear?
No, can you repeat again this example?
Yeah. For example, you have a client who is in bed. He wakes up multiple times overnight for no reason. For no reason. Now the personal care assistant has decided to tie him up to the bed. Tie him with a sheet or something so that he doesn't wake up in the night. Is that an unreasonable use of force?
Yeah.
Yes.
So that unreasonable use of force will be reported as a mandatory report. I repeat that once again: physical abuse, sexual abuse, and unreasonable use of force. If you have even suspected, you don't need to have evidence. You don't need to have evidence. Even if you have suspected these abuse or unreasonable use of force, it has to be reported to the supervisor immediately. Within 24 hours, you have to report it to the police and the Department of Aging. I repeat myself, if you come across, if you're suspecting or there is a confirmed case of physical abuse, sexual abuse, or unreasonable use of force, we have to report this immediately to the supervisor. And within 24 hours, you have to report this to the police and the Department of Aging. Is that clear for everyone?
So Department of Aging is like a government authority, or?
I'll tell you the actual full name of it. It's Quality Commission. Aged Care Quality and Safety Commission.
Okay.
Aged Care Quality and Safety Commission. That's the actual name. We call it as Department of Aging, but Aged Care Quality and Safety Commission.
But it is my responsibility to inform them or my supervisor.
No, supervisor.
Yeah.
Police also supervisor is calling, but did you let them know? They know already what mandatory reporting is, what falls under mandatory reporting. Now,
Okay.
the other things like,
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe I missed that, but when you report, you have to be so sure, or maybe if
No.
you just suspect.
you suspect.
All right.
Again, keep it simple this way, Valeria. I have seen a bruise on my client's face
Mhm.
or 4 finger marks on the client face. Okay. If my client has the usual behavior of hitting herself, I'll report to supervisor, let them decide. But it's very unusual and it looks like someone has hit her. Okay. But I don't have any evidence of who hit her. That's not my job. That's an investigation. That's the job of the police.
Okay.
So I don't do their
Just
job.
let them know.
But all I'm doing is I'm suspecting it. I'm letting them know so that they can continue to do the investigation. Does that make sense, Valeria?
So
Yes.
here, so here we just inform the supervisor, then everything will be done by supervisor, is it, sir?
Everything will be done by the supervisor, but in case that you're suspecting a physical abuse and a sexual abuse
Yeah.
or unreasonable abuse of force, in
Yeah.
these circumstances, you have to actually, especially when it comes to sexual abuse and physical abuse,
Yeah.
you have to make sure that they have reported, which all supervisors know about it, but just also check with them that, these kind of instances, you may not even come all over your life. If you're working for 20 years, you may not even come across one situation. The chances are only 5% or even 2%. But if you ever come across, then you report it to the supervisor, make sure that it is documented.
So we should document the thing and tell the supervisor. And
Again, why I'm not saying that you have to document, because in some organizations, OM, is it your name?
Yeah, exactly.
In some situations, you are not allowed to write notes in some organizations.
Okay.
Now, where you're not allowed to write notes, make sure that your supervisor has written it down in the client's progress notes.
Yeah.
And if you think that you're not able to actually justify it, or the supervisor is not writing notes, please approach your manager, because it's a sensitive issue.
Okay.
Now, where I'm not able to resolve some issues with my supervisor, I have to go to the next level of management to ensure that I am safe.
Okay.
My safety is also important, and my client's safety is also very important. Okay, but usually they don't ignore this. They know it's a legal requirement.
It means that unless that we are be sure that our reporting is done to the right place, we have to follow up there. Is it?
You have to follow it up just to be safe. But usually, usually I say that it's not a mandatory requirement. You report, it's okay, because you write an incident report yourself. Incident report will be written by you.
Yeah. Okay.
Progress notes, they may not allow you to write the progress notes, but incident report is written by the person who has seen the incident or identified the incident. Now you write the incident report, you're legally covered. You don't even have to go to the manager.
Okay, that's good.
Okay, but most of the 99%, I have never come across an organization that has refused a PCA to write incident report. But there could be some organization. The only reason behind why they don't allow PCS to write notes sometimes is because they might write something that is not legal. You know, they want to be safe. With documentation is a legal document, right? Once you write it, you can't cross it off. You cannot cross it off. Even if you cross it off, whatever you have crossed off, they still should be able to see what you have crossed off.
Yeah.
You can't scribble. Remember that, guys. You can't scribble it completely. You just put 2 lines across it. People should still be able to read what you have crossed off.
Won't that become an issue if we have written and we scribble it and we try to cut it? Wouldn't that be a question that you?
There is no problem. Sometimes, you know, for example, you are about to write notes about Peter, but you have written Peter's notes in Maria's file.
Okay.
Okay. Peter's notes was written in Maria's file. That was a human error. Now you can cross it off in Peter's notes and say wrong resident. What's wrong with that? Human errors happen. What are we going to do? It's considered as human error. We can't do anything much about it. But don't scribble it off completely. That's not legal. Because they might say that something happened and then you have written it and then you have crossed it in such a way that we can't
hide it.
Yeah, you're trying to hide something. Absolutely. Is that clear for everyone?
Yes.
Now, let me see what are the other things that the other things that you may have to cover, we may have to cover as a part of this particular unit is code of conduct. Code of conduct. Now, every organization has its own code of conduct. Now, this code of conduct has a set of rules outlined in it. Set of rules outlined in it that everyone who enters the organization should follow. The code of conduct could be different for the staff members, and code of conduct could be different for the visitors. Visitors could have a different code of conduct and staff members could have a different code of conduct. But everyone who enters the organization, they have to follow the code of conduct. And what is outlined in this code of conduct? An expected behavior is outlined. What do they expect from you when you enter this organization? What is an acceptable behavior or expected behavior? That is written in the code of conduct. In simple words, it's a set of rules outlining the social norms. It is a set of rules outlining the social norms and rules and responsibilities. A set of rules outlining the social norms, rules, and responsibilities that everyone must adhere when they enter the organization. Now, it could be visitors also. They might even have code of conduct. Now, the next one is code of practice. Now, code of practice is given by governing body. So, all governing bodies, they give written guidelines on what is expected from a particular profession. For example, a nurse. Nurses are registered with APRA. APRA is the governing body. And APRA gives a written guidelines on what is expected from the nurses. If they don't follow those written guidelines, they're at a breach of code of practice. And breach of code of practice could lead to suspension of a license or cancellation of a license. Is that clear for everyone? Now, I believe that we have covered most of the things that are required for this particular unit. Now, if there is something that comes up during our discussion, in the assessment is very lengthy, guys. So in our discussion, if something comes up, then I'll further discuss about it. Now I request everyone to give me your email addresses in the public chat. Now, since your assessment is a bit longer, I might give you a short break for say 10 minutes. I request everyone to please send me your email address in the public chat. All of you, please send me your email address in the public chat, please.
So I just have a question about code of conduct and code of practice.
Yeah.
So code of conduct basically is being created by the organization or the company itself, and code of practice it's being created by the governing bodies. Is that what the difference are?
That is right. So code of conduct, every organization can have its own code of conduct, and what they want in the code of conduct can be decided by the organization. Whereas a governing body, code of practice is given by the governing body. For example, say the code of practice, one of the code of practice says that all nurses, when it comes to medications, they have to follow the doctor's instructions. They cannot write a prescription or decide. Now, for example, they cannot overdose a client because they think it's appropriate. Okay. So those kind of things are clearly written in the code of conduct, code of practice.
Code of practice. All right. So there could be a variation. I mean, code of conduct could vary from one company to another.
Code of conduct is usually different in different organizations.
But code of practice would be the same.
It's a standard. It's a standard.
Okay.
It's a standard.
All right. Thank you.
It's given by a governing body.
Yeah.
Body is the head. The head decides what they want with that particular profession.
All right. Thank you.
No worries. Even doctors have certain restrictions. Doctors one, I don't actually know what exactly, but they are also governed. They have a code of practice as well. So for example, if you have done this particular study, if you have not done cardiology, you can't advise about this. Send them to the cardiologist. If you have not studied something to do with the podiatrist, don't give too much information about it because you may not know that. So don't go beyond your scope. That's what it's written for code of practice for doctors. And they are also governed by a governing body. That's why you see that you go to the doctor and the doctor says, I can't help you with it. You have to go to a cardiologist or a neurologist or a pathologist. You know what I mean? Not usually pathologists, but yeah, podiatrists and so on. All right. So, all right, guys. So I'm going to give you 10 minutes break. I'll see you guys at 10:15. It's a long assessment. I'll be sending it to you guys. We'll discuss, we'll go through the major ones that you may have to know. All right. So you guys can have a short break. I'll see you at 10:15.
Kira? Kira?
Welcome back, everyone. I request all of you to write sufficient notes in order to ensure that, you're writing appropriate answers for all of the assessment questions. Now, students who are not on the camera, onto the cameras right now, please. Everyone onto the cameras. Now, that's your assessment for unit number 5. And you have the due date. The due date for this particular assessment is next Saturday, which is the 17th of June. And all of you will be sending me the assessment to my email. As a new email, no replying back to my email. You have to compose a new email and put the subject as your unit code, your name, and student ID. And if you have a folder number, mention the folder number. If you don't have the folder number, leave it blank. Monday evening students, they do not have the folder number, so leave that blank. And even Saturday, Sunday, if you don't have one, it's okay, leave it blank. Please mention your name, your student ID. And we have 2 tasks for this particular unit. Task 1 is done during your placement, so we don't worry about that. Task number 2 and task number 3 is what we're going to do today. So please mention wherever it says your student name and student ID, and the date will be the date you're submitting your assessment. Name and student ID, you have to mention them. Wherever on this assessment it say ask for student ID and student name, you have to mention them. Now, your first scenario is you are supporting 2 elderly clients out for the day with a colleague. One of the client fell whilst getting out of the bus. Your colleague says to you, "We didn't see that, it's too much paperwork." What is your duty of care in this situation? Now, this is not inside the organization, this is outside the organization. So what is your duty of care?
Check the client, whether the client is safe.
Yeah.
Your duty of care in this situation is to maintain the safety of the client and do no further harm and seek for medical assistance if needed. Seek assistance from medical services if needed.
This will also go in the notes.
It will go into the notes when you get head to the organization. Guys, again, stick to the questions by itself. What question is asking you? Okay. In this particular question, yes, you can ask me as many questions as you want, but documentation is not a question here. You can ask questions to clarify yourself, but there are certain things that are not going in this response. What is your duty of care? Your duty of care is, in this situation, is to maintain the safety of the client, cause no further harm, and seek for medical assistance if needed. You can write saying that appropriate documentation need to be completed. There's nothing wrong with it, but you're not writing about when you're doing it, what you're doing is.
Before that, we need to check if client is injured. We can give first aid or not. We can bring her
Now,
to
in this
the
situation, going back to that first aid thing, always I say seek medical assistance. When I say seek medical assistance, what I mean is call an ambulance. Now, I'm not expecting you to sit there. Like, for example, the client is bleeding. Yes, first aid. But if the client is not bleeding and there's internal fracture, if you think he's complaining of pain, leave him on the floor as it is, or ground or floor, wherever you are. As he is, call an ambulance.
If client doesn't have any major fracture or bleeding, just sprain like.
Now, that's again, I'll be very sensitive towards this because I am not a nurse and I don't know what exactly the problem is. You understand what I mean? How do you know, if I ask you a question, how do you know if a client had a fracture or not?
She must be in too much pain.
Now, this is all, I never teach you about these kind of things unless you go for the first aid training. I might give you a little bit of information, but I don't teach you exactly to assess a fracture. You might know certain things out of your knowledge. There is nothing wrong with it, but I will call an ambulance. I'll say it's beyond my scope. Again, that's all about legal and ethical. What is that I'm doing? Is it within my scope? Am I a nurse? Do I know this? No, I don't. All right, then I'll call someone who knows it by paper. Not applying the knowledge that I have because I'm a qualified. No, I'm not qualified to assess. Is that clear? What you're saying absolutely right, Sakshi. The pain is a lot. There's a lot more pain when a person has a fracture. Whatever you're saying is correct, but I will not decide. I'll let the person who's qualified to decide. I'll call an ambulance. If he's saying that he's not comfortable, he's not able to get up, I leave that person on the floor. Call an ambulance. Let them decide. Make sense? That's why in your answer I said, if needed, I'll call the medical services, which is ambulance. It may not be appropriate. It depends again. If my facility is only 2 minutes away, I'll call my supervisor. But if the facility is far, I'll call an ambulance. Make sense? And where you have issues like this, I'll call my supervisor to take guidance from him. What do I do? If he's guiding me, I'll follow the instructions. If he says call an ambulance, I'll call an ambulance. Is that clear? Everyone clear? Any questions or confusions, please ask.
Is this should be the same client I'm working in the organization, or could be someone
It will
else?
be the client. If you're walking with that client and you're out with that client, it will be your client.
Okay, so no.
Okay. Any other confusions? Now the next question is everyone clear with this question?
No.
Next question. How has the staff member breached their duty of care? The staff member has breached the duty of care by saying, no, we didn't see this. It's too much paperwork, and he has decided not to report it. The person has decided not to report it. That's why it's a breach of duty of care. Is that clear?
Yes.
Next question. Scenario number 2. You overhear a colleague telling a neighbor that the client being supported in the house has the most difficult family to deal with. What would you do in this situation? Now, your colleague is telling someone, a neighbor, and you overheard this complete scenario. And he said, the family that he's dealing with is very tough family to deal with, most difficult family to deal with. What would you do in this situation? I'll go to my colleague and tell that he's breaching the privacy, and I'll report this incident to my supervisor. What privacy law has been broken here? Privacy Act 1988. Privacy Act 1988. Who would you report this to? Your supervisors. You'll report it to your supervisor. Since there's a breach of privacy, you'll report it to your supervisor. Now, I want everyone to focus on this last question because you'll be having similar question multiple times in this assessment. Why is it important for all staff to follow privacy and confidentiality policy of the organization? Now, why as a staff member, do you have to follow a particular policy? Well, why? It could be privacy or any policy. Why do you have to follow it? Any answers?
In any organization, when we work with, there are certain procedures, policy. So when you're working in an organization, you cannot just act on your behalf. You have to abide. You have to work within those policies. So it is essential. It's very essential not to follow your own brain, or your judgment, your perception, and just follow what the policy says. You should not
Your answer is correct. Think about it. Think about what I said earlier about policies. Also answer through that understanding. Now, what you said is absolutely right. But not just that's it. We have something beyond this.
It's to fulfill duty of care.
Okay. Anything else?
Protect yourself from
What is it, Gladys?
to protect yourself for further harm that can occur or any.
Okay. Anything else?
Client safety and employee safety.
Yeah. Anything else?
Follow code of conduct.
Anything else?
To avoid breaching the legislation.
To avoid breaching the legislation. Now, what did I tell you at the beginning of this session? All policies and procedures are designed according to the legislations. Now, what happens if you don't follow a policy?
You're not following the law.
You're not following the law. So if you do not follow a policy, you eventually end up breaching a legislation. Apart from that, what Jyoti said is also correct, which is you should not be following what you think is correct. There are policies that everyone has to follow because you work for an organization. So I repeat the response for this question once again. All policies and procedures are designed according to the legislations. Any breaches to the policies could eventually lead to a breach of legislation or law. Is that clear for everyone? Once again, I repeat, why do you have to follow the policies and procedures of the organization? Policies and procedures of the organization are designed according to the legislations and standards. Any breaches to the policies will eventually lead to a breach of legislation, which would have legal implications. Am I clear with this? Is everyone clear with this? So wherever you have a question related to policy, where it says that why do you have to follow this policy, your answer will be similar. I hope it is clear for everyone. Now moving to the next question. Scenario. Can anyone read this scenario, please? Anyone in this class?
Yeah. Millie had been having headaches, and after seeing her doctor, has indicated on her medication treatment sheet 2 500 mg tablets of Panadol are to be given every 6 hours. Policy of the organization is that 2 staff must sign the treatment sheet when Panadol is given. You give Millie 2 Panadol, and when you go to sign the treatment sheet, you see another staff member has just given Millie 2 Panadol.
All right. So how much Panadol has been given over the instructions by the doctor?
Just a double dose.
So it's double dose, but the question is, how much Panadol has been given over the instruction of the doctor?
Two tablets.
Now the answer, I don't expect anyone writing double dose or 4 tablets, because the answer will be wrong. The answer is, the question is very clear. What is overdose? Overdose is either 2 tablets or 1000 mg.
1000
mg.
1000 mg or 2 tablets.
1000 mg. Each tablet is 500 mg, and 2 tablets equal to 1000 mg.
No.
Overdose is 500 mg, I guess.
Overdose is 500 into 2.
1000 mg.
1000 mg. So the answers for this question will only be 2 possibilities. One is 1000 mg or 2 tablets. Nothing else. Is that clear for everyone?
Yeah.
Question is, what is the overdose? Now, what is it? Not the question doesn't ask you how many tablets did you give altogether. Question is asking what is the overdose. Overdose is either 1000 mg or 2 tablets. I hope it is clear. Next question. Who would you ask for advice as to the Milli's overdose of Panadol? Now, who can you ask for advice? Your supervisor or doctors? You can either contact your supervisor or doctor. You can involve both. There is nothing wrong.
Doctor, maybe.
No, supervisor should be involved, but in case if you need to, if there is a doctor in front of you, there is nothing wrong in asking doctor.
Supervisor.
Supervisor and doctor, both of them can advise. Because eventually supervisor has to go to doctor. And they have to inform doctor as well in this situation. I repeat the question once again. Who would you ask for advice? You can ask for advice from your supervisor, and you can also involve doctor. You can also. Okay. Now, anyone has any question in my response that I've given you right now? Why doctor? Anyone? Now, let me give you a bit of explanation here. Why do we involve doctor is here in this situation? Because anything happens to the client, like overdose or any issue that happens to the client, especially when it comes to medical, because she is the doctor's client, the doctor needs to know what happened with her all throughout the time, especially when it comes to medical stuff, like medications and so on. Falls, even falls, when we write an incident report, we fax it to the doctor, so the doctor knows it.
So it's the client's, sorry, Rakesh. So it's the client's doctor that we need to
always
have,
yes.
not any doctor.
Not any doctor, just a client's doctor. Even the doctor is not there, they're weekend off. But what do? I fax it to the doctor. It goes to the fax machine. They check it when they're ready. That's why we use fax in each case. Most of the time we don't send emails, we send fax. Because doctor's office will file it. And then the client's file. Now, next question is, how will you manage by not following your responsibilities formally? By not following the medical treatment sheet directions, by not following the policies and procedures of the organization. Now that you did not follow the policy of the organization or the treatment sheet, what will you do is the question. Now, you know that you have done a mistake. You have not followed the policy of the organization. So you need to report this to supervisor and continue to monitor the client. And if anything changes, or if the client is feeling sick or any side effects, you have to immediately take assistance from supervisor or report it to supervisor. I repeat that. You did not follow the policies and procedures of the organization and the treatment sheet. Now, what will you do is the question. Since you did not follow the policies and procedures and overdose your client, you will report this incident. You'll accept your mistake. You'll report this incident to the supervisor. And we continue to monitor the client so that any side effects as they come, you will report it and maintain the safety of the client. Is that clear? Now, this is what we're talking about, duty of care. You can also write that I'll follow my duty of care. I accept my mistake and I'll follow the duty of care and continue to monitor the client and will also report the supervisor of any changes that have been observed. Is that clear for everyone? Now, the next question. What would you say to the other staff member? Now, you both have done a mistake. One gave the medication without telling the other person, where you both have to go together and give the medication. So what will you tell to the other staff member is the question. What are you going to say to the other staff member? You'll go to the other staff member and say, see, we both have missed the policy and we didn't follow the treatment sheet. So moving forward, we need to strictly follow the policies and procedures and keep our communication open.
Yes.
Is that clear?
Can you repeat the number answer again?
So what will you say to the other staff member? You'll go to the other staff member and tell that we both have breached the policy of the organization. Moving forward, we need to strictly abide by the policies and keep our communication open and go together and give the medication as per the policy. That's what the policy says, that you have to go together. Now, the next question. What are your legal responsibilities in this situation? My legal responsibility in this situation is to report this incident and maintain the safety of my client. My legal responsibility in this situation is to report this incident to my supervisor and continue to maintain the safety of my client. Now, what documentation do you complete is the next question. What documentation do you complete, guys?
Incident report.
Definitely an incident report. And
a report to the supervisor.
Progress
Document.
notes.
Progress notes. Is that clear for everyone? Next question. In what ways could you improve the work practices in order to avoid mistakes such as these in the future? So to avoid such mistakes, what do? You read the policies and procedures on a regular basis. You'll keep your communication open with the other staff members and abide by the policies at all times.
Can you repeat, sir?
In what ways could you
Is
improve the
it-
work practices? Read the policies on a regular basis.
In this, can we also write that before we start the shift, it is better or it is advisable, we can say, to go through the sheet, through the progress notes or the reports that what medication we have given to the client in the past, so that we are aware.
We don't have that much time, Jyoti.
Okay.
You will know once you get to the age care. We have to be very practical.
Okay.
Read the policies and procedures on a regular basis. Keep your communication open with the other staff members and abide by the policies at all times. You definitely don't have that time. In the morning, you have start your shift at 7 o'clock. After your 15 minutes handover, you're running already. Do you think if you advise someone to read the progress notes, they're going to read? They'll be like, are you serious? I have Mr. Frank waiting for shower. Do I read the notes or go give a shower? He'll be upset if I don't go there. 8 o'clock is breakfast time. You have to give at least 2 showers before that. In between, you have clients who are getting out of the bed. Sometimes people fall too. A lot of things happening. In the morning is a very busy day. Morning is always busy. Until 11:30, you can't even sit down for a couple of minutes. You're on your feet. Okay, just for your information.
Yeah.
You're on your feet. Sometimes you're on your feet from 7 until 3. Apart from the lunch break, which you have a legal right, so you get a break, irrespectively. I hope that is clear for everyone. Next question. You have just arrived at work. The staff member you're working with is outside on her mobile phone, leaving 4 clients inside unattended in the kitchen. One of the clients have picked up a knife and cut themselves and now require medical attention. How is this a neglect by the staff member? Are you allowed to be on the phone at work?
No.
The staff member has left the clients unattended and she was on her phone at work. And this eventually has breached the duty of care towards the clients. That's why it's a neglect. I repeat that once again. The staff member was doing her own personal work during working hours, and she left 4 clients unattended. This is a breach of duty of care, which eventually leads to neglect. Is that clear?
Yes.
Next one. Why is it your legal obligation to report the staff member's action? Since it's a breach of duty of care or since it's a neglect, it becomes your responsibility to report this to your supervisor. Since it's a neglect or a breach of duty of care, it becomes your legal obligation to report this incident to their supervisor. Next question. Your manager has asked you to put the incident in writing as it is a policy of the organization. Write a brief report of this incident you witnessed. Now, in this one, I expect people to write this like a progress notes. I'll show you these example of how you write the progress notes. Now, this is how you write the progress notes, guys. So you put the date, 10th of 6th, say 11 a.m. So this is how the progress notes is. Date and time, notes, full name, signature, and designation. Okay. So you put the date and time, a time that you're writing the incident or progress notes. I have arrived at work. One of the staff members was outside on her phone, leaving 4 clients unattended in the kitchen. One of the client has picked up a knife and cut them himself. I have provided first aid and reported the incident to supervisor. And once you're done with these, why we have to cross this off with a line is because we don't want anyone else to add anything to this. So always when you finish and there's a space, you cross it off so that no one can add to your notes. We remember this is a legal document when you write the notes. Then what you do is you initial it, you write your designation and write your full name. Is that clear?
Mhm.
Now you might be writing similar to this in your answers. Is that clear?
Yes.
Everyone good to go? I'm not too sure why some students are not on the cameras. They will be removed from the session. They will not be given attendance. I don't have to repeat myself. Gurreet Singh, Harpreet, Kamal, Stansmon, Yogita, Om, all of you onto the cameras, guys. Next question, scenario number 5. You work for a community service organization that supports children in care. You have taken a lots of photos of Jimmy, who is 7 years old, at a local farmer's market. You want to put the photos on your Facebook page. What are the legal and ethical issues you could consider? What are the legal and ethical issues that you could consider? Any answers? Can you upload people's photos just like that?
No, I think that's a breach of
Privacy policy.
It could be a breach of privacy, so you need to make sure that you get consent from the legal guardians. Before uploading these photos, you need to ensure that you have a consent from the legal guardians, because he's a 7 years old child. You can't take consent from the child. You need to get the consent from the legal guardians. Next question. Why do you need to check your organization policy on social media? Why do you have to check organization policies?
They might have certain restrictions of posting.
We have to go as per the policies. If it allows us and if it is a consent, we have received it, then it's fine. But if it doesn't, says no, you can't breach the policy.
Why you need to check the policies of the organization? Because policies are designed according to the legislation. Any breaches to the policies will lead to the breach of legislation. Remember that I told you even earlier. Policies are designed according to the legislation. Any breaches to the policies will eventually lead to breach of legislation. So that's the reason we need to ensure that we strictly follow the policies of the organization. Is that clear? Next question. What act does social media policy come under? Privacy Act 2001. Privacy Act 2001. How could informed consent come into play with regards to the photo of Jimmy? Jimmy is a 7 years old child. We will not be able to get a consent from a minor who is 7 years old. So we need to get a consent from, informed consent from Jimmy's parents or legal guardians. I repeat that once again. Jimmy is 7 years old. So we may not be able to get a consent from Jimmy. So we have to contact the legal guardians or the parents to get a consent, a written consent, before we upload these photos to Facebook. Next scenario. You are supporting Peter, who has a mid disability and comes from a Muslim background. Peter's mother wants to give you a cake to say thank you for all your help. What is the ethical issue in this situation? The ethical issue is whether to accept the cake or not. The ethical issue is whether to accept the cake or not. How would you respond to the mother? In a very professional way, you might say, we may not be able to accept any gifts from the family members, unfortunately. Who would you ask for advice on receiving gifts? Your supervisor. In what ways could you keep up your knowledge on policies and procedures such as these? Read the policies and procedures on a regular basis. Attend your regular meetings so that you can keep up your knowledge on policies and procedures. Is that clear?
Can you repeat it, please?
First question, what is the ethical issue in this situation? Ethical issue is whether to accept the cake or not. Second question, how would you respond to the mother? In a very professional way, you'll tell the mother that you're not allowed to take any gifts from anyone. Third one, who would you ask for advice? Your supervisor. Fourth one, in what ways could you keep up your knowledge on policies and procedures? Read them on a regular basis and attend meetings on a regular basis so that you have full knowledge about your policies and procedures. Scenario number 7. I hope that is clear. I'm not too sure who asked me a question, but I hope that is clear. Scenario number 7. John has a physical disability. He uses a wheelchair and has a restricted movement in his hands. John's favorite social activity on Friday night is to go to a local pub and have a few drinks with his mates. Because of John's physical limitation, he has a carer who accompanies him to the club. In what way could the worker's personal value impact on this situation? A worker might get judgmental. And if the worker gets judgmental, it will affect the rights of the client. A worker might get judgmental, and if a worker does get a judgmental, it could impact the rights of the client. Next question. What are your values in this matter? Now, what are your values, guys? Are you going to go club with John? What?
Yes.
Your
I think
value
it's
should
one-
be, whether you want to go or not, that's a different story. You can discuss with your supervisor about it. But your value should be non-judgmental. You should not be judging the clients. Don't go and tell that you're disabled. Why don't you have a beer in your own home? Why do you want to go to club? He has a right to go to club. So don't be judgmental about the client's decisions or choices. Everyone good to go? Now, next question is, why do you have to be non-judgmental in this situation? You need to be non-judgmental in this situation because if you are judgmental, then it will breach the rights of your client. If you become judgmental about the client's choice or practice, it will breach the rights of the client. And obviously, breaching rights is illegal. Is that clear for everyone? Any questions? Moving to the next question, scenario number 8. A colleague tells you she has lost her license for 3 months due to speeding. She tells you she's still driving the clients to day placement because she needs the money as she is single parent. How is this unethical conduct by the staff member? Is it okay to drive the clients without the license?
No.
So why is it an unethical conduct by the staff member? It's unethical conduct by the staff member because she is putting the clients at risk. She is putting the clients at risk. Now, let me tell those students very clearly who are not here on the cameras and not participating in the class. You will not be provided with the attendance, number 1. No one can tell me that I'm at work. Are you serious? You're at work? We have decided to join the session, guys. So you cannot be at work, cannot be outside walking around in the trains and so on. These 2 hours is for session, 2.5 hours or whatever number of minutes it takes. Okay. I do not expect anyone giving me such answers, please. Your gadgets, everything needs to be organized. Your session is only for a few hours and then you have these many reasons. No, I'm not going to accept any reasons. I've already mentioned in my previous classes too. Now, next question is, who would you report this and why? Since it's unethical conduct, you'll report it to your supervisor. Since it's an unethical conduct, you will report this to your supervisor. Next question, scenario number 9. A colleague is selling even to clients. Why is this a conflict of interest? It's a conflict of interest because he's trying to make profits at work. It's a conflict of interest because he's trying to make profits at work. Next question. Who would you report this to and why? Since it's a conflict of interest, you'll report it to your supervisor. Who will you report this to and why? Since it's a conflict of interest, you'll report this to your supervisor. Next question. A client you are supporting tells you he was involved in a crime at a local shop. Why is it your ethical responsibility to report this? Because any illegal act, we do not hide them. We need to report them. That's why it becomes an ethical responsibility. Whether it's your client or anyone who has done it, a crime is a crime. So it's an illegal act. So it becomes your responsibility to report this to your supervisor. Is that clear for everyone? Who would you report and why again? Since it's an illegal act, you'll report this to your supervisor. Next question. Jim, a client you're supporting, wants to help move the lawn. He is very unsteady on his feet and falls over easily. Health and safety guidelines, health and safety policies and procedures have identified that Jim can't move the lawn as it is unsafe for him. What would you say to Jim? You'll tell Jim. Someone's mic is on. Can you please turn it off, please? I repeat that once again. What would you say to Jim? You'll explain to Jim about the risk involved in that particular activity, and you'll tell him that it's unsafe for him to do it. I repeat that once again. What would you say to Jim? You'll explain to him about the risk involved in that particular activity, and you'll also mention that it is unsafe for him to do it. Next question. Why is it important to follow health and safety policies of the organization? I leave that with you. Health and safety policies, why do you have it? To maintain the safety of everyone at workplace. And these policies are designed according to the legislation again. That's why it's very important for us to follow these policies to maintain everyone's safety at workplace. How could you explain dignity of risk to Jim if he still wanted to mow the lawn? Now you explained that it's not safe for him, he might harm himself. But in spite of you explaining it to him, he still wants to mow the lawn. What do you do in this situation?
Inform to the supervisor.
You let the supervisor know about Jim wanting to exercise his dignity of risk right. And if he still wants to move it and you have a permission from supervisor, you let him move the lawn. And in case if he gets injured, you'll transfer him to hospital. I repeat that once again. You'll inform this to your supervisor and get an approval from supervisor and allow Jim to do the lawn moving. In case if he gets injured, he'll be transferred to the hospital or you'll seek the medical assistance. Everyone clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Scenario number 12. Lily is 18 years of age. She has a great interest in politics and has asked you to take her to vote at upcoming elections. Lily's mother has told you that she is not to vote as Lily doesn't understand what she is talking about. What are Lily's rights? Lily has a right to vote and freedom of choice. Lily has a right to vote and freedom of choice. I repeat, Lily has a right to vote and freedom of choice. Next question. What conversation would you have with Lily's mother and how would you avoid conflict? Your conversation with Lily's mother should be very professional and you'll tell her about Lily's rights in a very professional manner. Next question. What are your work role boundaries in this situation? And when would you seek assistance? Your work role boundaries are, you'll explain the situation to Lily's mother and Lily. And if it's leading to the conflict, then you'll report it to the supervisor or you seek assistance from the supervisor. I repeat that once again. Your work role boundaries in this scenario are to explain Lily's rights to Lily and Lily's mother in a very professional manner. If it is leading to the conflict, then you may involve the supervisor for further advice. Next question. Define the relationship between Lily's needs and rights in this situation. What are Lily's needs and what are Lily's rights, guys? What are Lily's needs and rights?
Lily wants to vote.
Lily wants to vote. That's a need.
Vote.
That's right.
And
Right.
she can vote after 18 years.
She has a right.
It's right. Nobody can stop her.
No, let's talk about this once again. What is her right?
Her right is
right
to vote and freedom, right?
Freedom of choice.
Freedom of choice and right to vote. What is her need?
Necessity.
Like?
Food.
Being
clothing.
assisted by the carer.
Being assisted by carer and transportation. Need is she needs assistance from carer and transportation. right is right to vote and freedom of choice. Okay. Now, if she does not fulfill her need, she will not be able to exercise her right. If she is not able to fulfill her need, she will not be able to exercise her right. Is that clear for everyone? That is a relationship. They're both interrelated, because without a need being met, she will not be able to exercise her right. Next question. Where can you get information about Lily's rights? Where do you have information about the rights?
Care plan.
Oh, who is that? What is care plan?
Oh.
Where is the information? Lily is 18 years old, my dear. She's not 80 years old. She doesn't have a care plan. She may not even have a care plan. May not.
Government websites, yeah.
Internet
research.
Anything else? Anything else?
I think legislation also has enumerates the rights
legislation of
Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Universal Declaration of Human Rights or Australian Human Rights. Now your government websites is okay, but you're still looking for this Universal Declaration of Human Rights or Australian Human Rights. Let's move on to the next scenario. A lot of employees are bringing their children to work as a part of flexible arrangement. Why is it important for all employees to have working with children's check, guys? Why do all of them need to have a working with children's check when they're interacting with children at workplace?
To ensure the safety of children.
It is to ensure the safety of children, so that we ensure that they're not causing, no one is causing harm to them. Okay. I repeat that once again. Why is it important for all employees to have working with children's check? Since they're interacting with the children, everyone needs to have a children's check, because it is to maintain the safety of children at all times and ensure that they're free from any kind of harm. I hope that is clear for everyone. Just a second. Right. Any questions? Next scenario, I want everyone to focus very well, because this could be another question as well. The question itself becomes an answer for a different question in the written questions. The question itself would become an answer for another question in written questions. Health and safety guidelines for the organization dictate that all staff and clients are to wash their hands before handling food. You notice that there is no procedure on washing the hands. Your manager has advised and asked you to write the procedure for washing hands. Write a procedure on washing hands. So what will you write here? You'll write down the 7 steps on how to wash hands. You write down the 7 steps on how to wash hands. Why would you show your manager the procedure before showing it to the staff? To get feedback and any suggestions for improvement. Next question. Why would you ask for feedback from the staff and clients about your procedure? Because everyone in an organization is involved in developing the policies and procedures. They can also be given a right to contribute to the policies of the organization. So I repeat that once again. At workplace, everyone is involved in contributing to the policies and procedures to ensure that we get the feedback and additional improvements from the staff members and clients. We show it to the clients and staff member. In other words, we get the feedback from the clients and staff member.
Can you repeat the C number answer?
Why would you ask for feedback from staff and clients about your procedure? In simple words, you ask for feedback so that you can get additional
Suggestions
comments,
for
or improvements from clients and the staff members. You can get suggestion on additional improvements that you may need to make to your procedure. Next question. I hope that is clear. I'm happy to repeat once again. Now, content is same, guys, but sometimes I use different words because I don't remember my own sentences. I'm not reading out from somewhere, yeah? The content is still the same. Next question. How would you make sure all staff members are aware of this hand washing procedure and why it was put in place? How will you ensure? We can have some posters. We can have meetings and we can discuss about the policies in the meetings. We can have one-on-one conversation with the clients and the staff members. And we can even give out some flyers so that everyone is aware of this particular policy or a procedure. Next question. What Work Health and Safety Act do organizations need to follow? Now, every policy or a procedure is designed according to the legislation, right? So whatever you are writing, it must be according to the legislation. So which legislation do you follow is the question. The legislation that you follow for this particular scenario is Work Health and Safety Act 2004. Work Health and Safety Act 2004. I repeat, it's Work Health and Safety Act 2004. Next question. How can you keep up to date with changes to regulations, policies, and procedures? Any answers?
By attending the meeting regularly.
Attending meetings regularly and attending and reading the policies and procedures.
And attending the
trainings.
Attending
Taking
trainings and by
notes,
reading the policies and procedures on a regular basis. I repeat that once again. How can you keep up to date with the changes to regulation? You can do your professional development courses. You can we can attend the regular meetings, and you read your policies and procedures on a regular basis. Next question, scenario number 15. You work in early childhood education center. One of the children comes to the center with a regular bruising on the body. The child doesn't want to go home. What is your responsibility in this situation?
Before the incident or the abuse?
It could be a physical abuse because the sign is a bruise. It could be a physical abuse. You may suspect a physical abuse. So you remember that mandatory reporting that I have discussed earlier?
Yes.
That mandatory reporting also applies to children and vulnerable people. It technically applies to all vulnerable people, young children, aged people, and disabled clients. So in this situation, what is your responsibility? You'll report this to your supervisor. Suspecting an abuse, you'll report this to your supervisor, and you'll also follow the mandatory reporting, under which you report to the police within 24 hours and also report it to the Department of Human Rights. Because it's not elderly person, it's a child. So you report it to the Department of Human Rights. Everyone good to go? Now we're looking at the written questions. Obviously, I'm not going to go through all of the questions. So I'll leave the code of conduct with you guys. Code of practice, I'll leave that with you guys. Next question. What is an example of organization grievance policy? When someone is grieving at an organization, what do they do? Is a question. An organization grievance policy, example of this particular organization grievance policy is complaints policy. An example of organization's grievance policy is a complaints policy. And how are clients informed about the rights and responsibilities in relation to the receiving services? How are the clients informed about the rights and responsibilities? The clients are informed about the rights and responsibilities through meetings, flyers, and posters. How are clients informed about the rights and responsibilities? They're informed about the rights and responsibilities through meetings, flyers, and posters. Next question 4, I leave that with you. Question 5, I leave that with you. Question 6, everyone good to go? What does non-judgmental approach to practice means? Any answers? What does non-judgmental approach to practice means? Any answers?
We
Not
cannot
to
judge a
judge.
client.
You cannot judge people on the basis of their race, religion, culture. We did not discriminate people. We allow people to take their own decisions by themselves, and we respect those decisions. Question number 7. How can a support worker's own values and attitudes affect a person they are supporting? If you impose your values on someone else, how does it impact the client? You go to the client and say, you can't go to the club because you're disabled. What happens?
It will disrespect him.
It will influence their opinions. It will influence their rights. It will influence their choices. And it will lead to discrimination. I hope that is clear for everyone. I'll leave unethical conduct, conflict of interest with you guys. Question number 10. Find a job description for a job you would like to do. Okay, worker. Now, under this question, you have to write, how would you keep up to date with industry trends? How will you keep up your knowledge with industry trends? Any answers? How can you keep up your knowledge?
Regular trainings.
Technology training, new learnings.
Professional development courses. You can do professional development courses. Attend regular training at your work. Read books.
Be up to date with the changes.
Networking. You have to complete your e-learning. E-learning, everyone knows what an e-learning is. Your organization has a portal where they have examples, scenarios. You read the scenarios, answer some questions, learn some things. That's e-learning. Okay. Now, what training would you like to attend to increase your knowledge? This is a personal question. They're asking you individually, what training would you like to attend? You might write saying that I would like to attend training on manual handling. I would like to attend training on dementia, first aid. It's up to you. It's up to you. I'll leave it with you. Now, signs of abuse, physical abuse, visible signs, something that you can see. Bite marks, bruises, finger marks. Behavioral signs of physical abuse, isolation, depression, stress. Unexplained fractures. Signs of emotional abuse. Again, stress, refusal of care, refusal to eat meals, lack of sleep. Signs of sexual abuse. Bite marks on genital areas. Bleeding from genital areas. Unexplained sexual diseases. This one I'm really fast because I don't want people to write. I don't want your answers to be same. What is a mandatory reporting? If you suspect an abuse or if there is a confirmed abuse, example, physical abuse, sexual abuse, or unreasonable use of force, you'll report it to supervisor immediately. And within 24 hours, you'll report it to the police and the Department of Aging. In other words, Quality and Safety Commission. Now, I don't want anyone writing a refusal of service or something like this, mandatory reporting, let me be very clear on mandatory reporting. We do mandatory reporting only for 3 reasons: physical abuse, sexual abuse, and unreasonable use of force. I don't want anyone writing refusal of care. For example, you go to a client and you say that I want to give you a shower, and the client says, no, I don't want shower now. You call police.
No, sir.
No.
No.
I hope you don't, because police is just going to be in the HK if you do that. Now, that's what it means when you write that answer. It's only applicable to physical abuse, sexual abuse, and unreasonable use of force. I don't want anyone writing anything else. A client had a fall. What will police do? You know what I mean? Is that clear for everyone? I do not want anyone to write such answers, because, I definitely have to put it as a wrong answer and I have to call you for the resubmission. Question number 13. When employed in the community service field, why is it important to follow the policies and procedures of the organization? I believe you guys are good to go. Policies and procedures are designed according to the legislations. Any breaches to the policies and procedures will eventually breach legislation. Question number 14. Who would you ask in the organization to find out about policies and procedures? You can talk to your supervisors, managers, and HR. Supervisors, managers, and HR, Human Resource Officer. Question 15. Why do you believe it's important to include the policies and procedures in the staff induction? Now, when you start your work during your inductions, why do you think everyone needs to be educated about the policies of the organization? Why do you think? Do you think you should need to know policies?
Yeah. To avoid legal issues.
So we provide standard of care to our clients. Standard of care, what does it mean? Whether it's Rakesh who is providing the service, whether it's Jaspreet, whether it's Om, whether it's Sakshi, whether it's Dilpreet, it doesn't matter who provides the service. The service standard should remain the same. So how do you make sure that our service standard is same? Because we all follow the same policy and procedure for any issue. Is that clear for everyone? So before a person starts, they need to know, how do I work? What is the policy that I have to follow? What are the policies and procedures that I have to follow when I'm providing services? This will help us to provide standard of care to our clients, irrespective of who provides the service. Is that clear for everyone? Any questions? And
No.
apart from this, you can also write saying policies and procedures will also help the staff members to know about the legal requirements and ethical responsibilities. It is a long topic, guys. It takes as long as it takes. I don't have a control over this topic. It's too long. Next question. Who would you consult if a policy need to be changed? You'll contact your supervisors, your managers, and HR. You'll contact your supervisor, manager, or HR. Now, develop a checklist of work roles and responsibilities as you understand in relation to the job description as a carer. Now, what are some of the things that you do as a person support worker or care worker? What do we do as a care worker? Dressing, undressing,
Giving bath,
grooming, oral hygiene, showering, reporting hazards, feeding, engaging clients in activities, bed bathing, reporting hazards, all job description checklist comes here. Next question, question 18. Describe an example of a task outside your specified work role as a carer and how you would clarify this with your job supervisor. Can you give me one example? Outside your specified work role as a care worker. One example.
Giving medicines.
Giving medicine could be one of them because you're not medication trained. So if the client is asking for medication, then you may not have to assist and you have to report this to your supervisor and ask your supervisor to assist. If your client is asking for financial advice, can you give financial advice? Can you give financial advice?
No.
Do you tell them where to buy a house?
No, we can't.
No.
So what do you do in this situation? Since it's a limitation, you'll report it to your supervisor and ask for assistance, or ask them to refer to someone who can assist them. Question 19. Provide an example of when a staff accepts the responsibilities of his own actions within his work role. When he has reported an incident or issue, clarified his duty of care requirements, sought feedback regarding the work role and legal obligation. Now, what they're asking this question is, write an example of an incident where a staff member has accepted that they have done something wrong. Okay? And reported this to supervisor. Now, can anyone give me an example?
It could be just like the dose of Panadol that was given
Absolutely.
to.
So that's the best example. You have done something wrong, you have accepted. What is the example? Maybe a medication overdose. Maybe you gave a wrong meal to a wrong client. Okay? Maybe you gave a client something that is allergic to. Those are the incidents that you can write about. Question 20. Describe duty of care in relation to the job role as a carer and how are staff members informed about the duty of care. Now, duty of care, we have discussed it already. And how are staff members informed about the duty of care? They're informed through the job description. They're informed through the policies and procedures of the organization. It's already there. Organization policy and job description. Question number 21. Within a work role as a carer, how do you seek agreement from clients before delivering services? Now, before you deliver a service to the client, how do you seek agreement from the clients? Any answers? It's not a tough question, very easy question.
Get consent.
You just need to get a consent. That's simply the right answer. How do you seek assistance, seek agreement from the clients? Before you provide the service, tell them what you're going to do and ask them to give a consent. Next question. What is an example of organization policy on seeking agreement for services? Now, how does an organization seek agreement from the client before they provide service? What is the best example? Which document do you refer to?
Contract, maybe.
Care plan. The care plan. Care plan is drafted according to the client's choice, right? That's since we are seeking agreement from the client saying that we are going to provide these services. What services do you want? How do you want it? That's what the organization does. So in the care plan, it's clearly written what service is to be provided and how is it provided. So the first part of the question is a consent response. The second part of the question is care plan. Example of a document or a policy. Question number 22. Describe an example of an organization confidentiality policy. What is an organization confidentiality policy, guys? Do not disclose the personal information of the client to unauthorized people. Do not leave the client's files unattended. Always lock the client's files. Do not share passwords. If someone has breached it, what do? We report to supervisor. Question 23, give 2 examples of breach of confidentiality at your workplace. And how is it handled? All breaches will be reported to supervisor. How is it handled? Can anyone give me one example of breach of confidentiality?
Talking about the financials, that he's very rich, something like this.
Talking about financials, he's very rich. Who are you talking to?
With staff members, with all
Staff members.
A staff
Discussing
Give me an example.
the financials, that yes, he comes from a very wealthy family, something like this.
But who are you discussing with?
Maybe outside the organization.
Maybe outside the organization, or you're discussing with another resident or other residents' family members. If you're discussing about one of the client's medical condition with another family member, other client's family member or other client, that's breach. Next, question number 24. Write two legislations that are applicable for aged care. Aged Care Act 1997, Aged Care Act 1997, Privacy Act 1988, Disability Act 2006, any two. Health Records Act 2001, next question, question number 25. You just need to mention the acts. You don't have to explain, guys. It's a list. Question 25. What is the difference between ethical dilemma and legal obligation? Ethical dilemma is a confusion between what is right and what is wrong. It's a confusion between what is correct, what is the right thing to do, and what is the wrong thing to do. And what is a legal obligation? It's a written guideline. It tells you what exactly you have to do. There's no confusion in legal obligation. Whereas in ethical dilemma, there could be a confusion between what is right and what is wrong. Is that clear for everyone? Question number 26. What would you do if you're confronted with the legal or ethical dilemma? If it's legal or ethical dilemma, if you're confronted, if you're in a situation where you have to decide about legal or ethical dilemmas, what do? You'll refer to the organization policies and procedures. And if you're still unsure about it, you'll contact your supervisor. Question number 27. Personal values, beliefs, attitudes, and culture influence how everyone responds to different situations. Discuss how you can ensure that you respect all clients' values, beliefs, attitudes, and culture, regardless of whether they differ from your own or not. Any answers? How can you ensure that you respect all client values? Do not discriminate clients. Do not be judgmental. Have a non-judgmental approach. Do not impose your values on the clients.
Respect the culture, beliefs.
Respect their culture, beliefs, rituals. I believe you guys are good to go there. Question number 28. Describe the process used in workplace when a new policy or procedure needs to be created and implemented. For what reasons? Let's go to the second question of this one. For what reasons might they need to write the policies or change the policy? Why do you think they need to write a policy or change a policy? We write new policies when there is no policy written. If we do not have a policy written on a particular situation, we need to write new policies. And when do we change a policy? When there is a change in the legislation. When there is a change in the legislation, when a particular policy or a procedure is not working, it's not giving the desired effect. Is that clear? Now, describe the process used. That's the first part of the question. What process do we use when we implement a new policy or design a new policy, create a new policy? Now, if you go back to this question number 14, what did we do here? The question itself becomes the answer, but you have to write in a very logical way. We write a procedure, we show it to the manager, staff members, clients to get the feedback. Yeah. And then we make sure that it is according to the legislation. And once it's finalized, we'll let everyone know about this new policy. Is that clear? The question itself becomes an answer here. For question number 28, you refer to scenario question number 14 questions that will help you out. So you write a policy, you show to the manager, staff members and clients to get the feedback. Make sure your policy is according to the legislation, And then you let everyone know about this new policy, implementation of this new policy. Good to go, guys? Now, question number 29. What human resource documents do you need to be aware of in the context of legal and ethical responsibilities? In order to ensure that you're working according to the legal and ethical responsibilities, what human resource documents do you need to be aware of? Code of conduct, code of ethics, policies and procedures, aged care manual, staff handbook, aged care standards, community service legislations. These are some of the human resource documents that we all need to be aware of. And job description also can be a part of it. Job description. Now, these are the questions that you have. It's a very long assessment, guys. So, and again, we need to make sure that we do it the right way. All scenarios and all of them, be careful when you're writing answer. It's, you know, and also with the length of the response, depending on the question, the length will be decided. At least nothing less than 200 words. But again, depends on the question. Some questions only need 1 or 2 lines. For example, I'll report it to supervisor. That's fine. Okay. But I'm not expecting people to just give me, you know, 1-word answers or 1-line answers for all questions. That's not what I'm expecting from you guys. Okay. Now just give me 1 second. Let me download your attendance sheet. Now I repeat my, yeah.
I'm Nisha's student, so I have sent you my roll number, student number,
You
and
just
my
still
name
need to wait, please.
in chat.
Yes, you just still need to wait.
I need to wait.
Yes, because I have to take your
Okay.
name down. Okay, your name is taken, Sakshi. Right, I'm going to call
Yes.
the names of Saturday Sunday students first.
Can I
Anjana,
go?
you can leave, thanks.
Thank you.
Anjana, Lama,
Yes, sir.
marked. Anupa,
Yes, sir.
Anupa marked. Ashmita Bandari,
Yes, sir.
Ashmita Lamacheni, Asmita Magar,
Yes, sir.
marked. Astika, I believe everyone can see the attendance. Astika, Astika, Vandana,
Yes, sir.
Vikram. I can't share it. Vikram, Chali, Dipali, Deepika,
Yes, sir.
marked. Diana, Dilini marked.
Thank
Dilsi
you, sir. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
marked. Gemma, Gladys marked.
Thank you, sir.
Gurpreet. Harpreet. Isha. Jamila marked. Harpreet marked.
sir.
Harpreet Kaur marked.
Yes, sir.
Jaspreet Kaur
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir.
marked. Jessica
Yes, sir.
marked. Jyoti
Yes, sir.
marked. Kabita. Kamalpreet.
sir.
Kabita marked. Kamalpreet marked. Imraj marked. Kulvinda
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Present, sir.
marked. Kumar. Lipu marked. Lorna marked. Manisha. Mahima.
Thank you, sir.
Maria Tiffany. Marianne.
Sir, hello.
Maria Tiffany marked. Marianne
Yes, sir.
marked. Michael marked. Mohan
Present, sir.
marked. Nirjala. Om Prakash marked. Pavitra
Sir.
marked. Pratigya.
Present, sir.
Pratik. Pratima. Pooja Tapa
Present, sir.
marked. Raju marked. Rivas
Yes, sir.
marked. Ria. Roshni Buddhatoki. Roshni Dami. Sabina marked. Sapana
Yes, sir.
marked. Saraswati
Yes, sir.
marked. Shanti.
Yes, sir.
Simran.
Yes, sir.
Sophia
Yes, sir.
marked. Simran marked. Sophia marked. Sohit
Yes, sir.
marked. Sonika. Tony marked.
Yes.
Christina
Yes, sir.
marked. Sukhjeet. Sukhmanpreet. Sumina. Suraj
Yes, sir.
marked. Saida.
Thank you.
Tuidang. Faisal. Tripti. Sharing. Now, students who have missed their attendance, they'll stay back, and at the end of the session, they'll let me know.
Yeah, sir.
Asmita Maga, you have been marked already. Manveen, I'm not too sure.
Yes.
Sir Muhammad
Sir.
said.
I haven't called your names, guys. Not everyone's name has been called yet.
Sir, Isa.
So now, students who have missed their attendance, or if the name has not been called, they'll wait. No one is sending me any messages at this stage. I'm not even considering those messages that have been sent, because this leads to confusion.
Hi.
Yun Jang, Yun Sion, Brendan, Harpreet, Jello, Kingston, Mark.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Soumya, Mark. And guys, if you're not able to make it tomorrow, it's okay. Sonia and Kingston.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
By the way, sir, this is my last unit, and so
Yeah, that's fine. So I might call you next week.
okay, sure.
If you
Thank
don't
you,
have any
sir.
questions, you don't have to come tomorrow. It's okay.
Yep, sir. Have a good
And,
weekend, sir.
so as with Soumya.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Sir, I didn't hear my name.
What's your full name?
Carmen Hong.
Are you from Monday evening batch?
Is yeah. I think it's a Friday batch.
Yeah. So I haven't called your name yet.
Oh,
That's what I
okay.
said. So students, if I have not called your name,
This is
please relax.
this is my first class.
That's what I'm saying. Students,
Yeah.
who have, if I have not called your name, please relax. Anyone who is sending me messages in the public chat, I'm not considering it. I already told. Because I haven't called everyone's name yet. You're just pushing. So it's not gonna work if you push, guys.
Didn't call my name as well.
Yes, guys, I didn't call everyone's name yet. Can you relax, please? At the end, I'll take. Is that clear, guys? Students from Saturday, Sunday only. Students who attend on Saturday morning. Those students, if I have not called your name yet, only Saturday morning students. If you're not called your name yet, then you will let me know now.
Sir, I
Is
think I
Pratikya
missed my name.
Are you from Saturday morning, Samiksha?
Yes, sir.
I have marked your attendance already.
Okay, thank
Mine
you,
only
sir.
on Monday.
On Monday.
Monday.
I'm not talking about Monday, please, guys.
Sir,
I'm talking
Pratigya.
about Saturday.
Sir,
Saturday
Pratigya.
morning.
Yeah, Saturday morning, Pratigya.
Yeah, Pratigya, you have been marked already.
Goma Saturday morning, sir.
Goma, are you from Saturday batch?
Yeah.
Goma, Pant. Yep, marked. Who's next from Saturday?
Sir, Isha from Saturday.
When I called your name, what were you doing, Isha?
I told present.
Have you?
Yes.
You have not been marked present, so you're not on time with your present. You have been marked now. Next,
Tony, please.
Sony, you have been marked.
All right.
Sir, Vandana.
Bandana, which batch are you from?
Yes, Saturday morning.
You have been marked.
Thank you.
So, Sony, you have been marked.
Sir, Sukhjeet.
Sukhjeet, you have been marked.
Thank you, sir.
Anyone else from Sunday morning only?
Sir, Om is Max, is it?
Om Prakash marked and
Yeah.
Saraswati is also
Yeah,
marked.
okay, thank you, sir.
Now, people who are sending me messages again, I'm ignoring them because they don't know how to follow instructions. Why are we sending messages when I said that I haven't called your names yet? Now, Saturday, Sunday students can now leave. Saturday, Sunday students who have given me attendance, you can leave now. I'll see you next Saturday.
Thank you. So this is my last class.
Pavitra, can we talk about this later? Just give me a second. Let me finish with these small people and then I'll take your name down. Okay, so that I can guide you as well. Yeah, Pavitra.